You're watching our live and continuing coverage from the blockbuster CII Budget Roundtable here at the Le Méridien Hotel, very close to Parliament, right in the center of all the action. I want to introduce now two new guests who've joined us. I want to begin by introducing Dr. Naushad Forbes. He's the director of Forbes Marshall Private Limited. Thank you very much, sir. Welcome. We also have at this time Sumant Sinha, Chairman and CEO of Renew Power. Thank you very much, Sumant. Great to have you with us on this broadcast. I want to deal with key expectations, because the big topic this morning is reviving investor sentiment to ensure that corporate India starts pumping in money, and that then has a spiral effect for everyone. What would you like to see, Sumant, the finance minister, do to signal to you that, okay, the India economy story is back on track?
I think that what the FM needs to do really is a couple of things. I think on the macro, the numbers that he presents for the fiscal deficit have to be believable and credible. I think if that happens, and if the overall borrowing pressure from the government goes down, to some extent that will help in reducing the cost of debt, which is an important ingredient in any new projects that are done. And I think secondly, there have to be some measures announced to further sort of incentivize the stock markets. Because I think if that happens, you'll have more and more FII inflows coming in. That really then provides the equity currency to allow corporates to delever, which is already beginning to happen, by the way, with the stock markets where they are. But I think that will then take further momentum. And I think along with that, a longer-term roadmap across different sectors, which will then allow people to start planning in terms of which areas they want to invest in, how much money they want to invest, and so on. And that then, with the capital coming in, more available, people beginning to make plans, I think that's where you'll really start seeing the economy coming out of its sort of the moribund state that we're in right now, and we'll start seeing new investments taking place.
Because corporate India, Dr. Forbes, would love to see subsidies go down, as an example. But the moment the finance minister increases fares, we saw what happened in the case of railway fares. There's a huge backlash. That key assembly elections slated for Maharashtra, for Haryana and for Delhi. Do you think, given the fact that the election's around the corner, the finance minister will be able to take the tough decisions that you're looking out for?
I think he can, actually, because I think it's possible to show the right direction on subsidies. And if one sees a transition to more user charge-based systems, and maybe where a system, you have a convergence with the actual costs over a period of time, like was announced earlier on oil prices, where there was an increase of oil prices that was supposed to be a rupee or 2 rupees each month. That kind of convergence over a period of time is what can actually, without causing much pain in the short run, achieve this objective of rationalizing subsidies. I think if we see that kind of direction coming through on the budget, it will be a good, powerful indication of the finance minister's seriousness to do something about targeting subsidies at the people who really need them.
We're speaking here to India Inc., understanding what they're expecting. I want to go across also to our National Affairs editor, Javed Ansari, who's joining us from outside Vijay Chowk. Let's understand, Javed, what the politicians think Jaitley will do, and also describe to us what's happening inside Parliament, a cabinet meeting taking place, the other cabinet ministers finding out for the first time what's inside Jaitley's budget.
Yes, absolutely. Mr. Arun Jaitley and Nirmala Sitharaman, his deputy, both walked into Parliament a while ago, and now as we speak, the cabinet meeting has just begun. It will go on for about half an hour, and you're spot on. This is for the first time that the entire cabinet will know the broad outlines. Let's underline, these are just broad outlines which the finance minister will share with his ministerial colleagues, after which at around 10:40 or 10:45 he'll troop into the Lok Sabha and set up his papers and all that. At about 10:50 or 10:55, we are told the Prime Minister will lead his other colleagues onto the floor of the Lok Sabha. As to what the political class is expecting, I have with me Mr. Keshav Rao of the TRS. Let me begin by asking him, sir, what are your expectations of the budget? If the railway budget is anything to go by, it's abundantly clear that this government will not prefer populism over good economics.
Well, see, there is a wrong usage of the idiom populism. Populism is the people. If you cannot address the people, if you cannot reach out to people, then there is nothing like in this country at all. There is nothing like in the economy. But nonetheless...
But look where it has landed us. We have such a huge deficit.
It is all about actualization of what your intentions were. When you were thinking of reaching out, suppose, put security, and it goes in between somewhere else. That means you don't have that kind of a monitoring system. You don't have that kind of mechanism to back you up. Then it all goes up. The populism is looking at people and their needs and addressing them first, because economy is a backroom operation, where I talk to my business interests, I talk to economists, I talk to experts, and know what exactly is happening. Now look, as far as this, it might be a big day for my friend Jaitley, but it is a challenging day too. But let us not also expect too much from him, because it is just 2 months they had come in. We expect a government which is there only for 1.5 months to roll out some kind of a reform budget or a dream budget is expecting too much, perhaps, I think. They, at best, in my view, before commenting, as you rightly said, political reactions can come. The economic hard realities can only come when we see what he has to say. I think it will be a budget of intentions, his promises, his wish list, which he will consolidate in a long-range policy. If, as you are saying, if I were to look to the railway budget, I would see is certainly not looking to the consolidation, physical consolidation. You're only trying to go and correct the mechanism, sort of a thing.
So the economic survey that was placed before the House yesterday, it says that growth is expected between 5.4 to 5.9%. Many would believe it's an optimistic figure given the monsoon predictions. And if that indeed is the case, then where is the money going to come for some of the infrastructure projects that this government, especially Prime Minister Narendra Modi, has promised the people in the run-up to the election?
Well, that exactly is my issue. First, I said we can't just within 2 months think about it. First, let me agree with you that 5.9 is perhaps not only optimistic, too much to expect. The economy being at 4.7, the UPA has.
So we'll come back to you in a minute. Rahul, Mr. Keshav Rao is clear. He believes that this 5.4 to 5.9 projection is way over the top and it ought to be a lot more realistic.
Thanks, Javed. We'll keep coming back to you in a while from now as more and more MPs gather to enter Parliament. The editor-in-chief of the India Today Group, Shekhar Gupta, is also now joining us. You've been looking very carefully at the economic survey and you've also been speaking to various people. What, sir, do you think that Mr. Jaitley can realistically do? You've got the expectations out on the street. You've got what India Inc. expects. You've got what the opposition would like to see Jaitley do. What do you think he can do given all these circumstances?
Well, it's very difficult to fulfill these expectations because people are wanting him to now bring about a revolution. It's not possible. This is India. There's a parliament and there are the realities of India. I think if he can make a clear enough statement of intent that he is changing. Look, the problem in India is not economic policy. It is a problem. It's not what is done in every budget or retrospective or prospective, etc. The problem in India is where India's political economic debate is stationary. It's stationary in a bunker for a very long time. In the sense that everybody talks the same language, which is all fake, pro-poor, socialist, anti-rich, Robin Hood. It hasn't worked for 65 years. This verdict is as clear an indication as you would have needed that government of India, that people of India have rejected that formulation. You need a budget now, that is a statement from a new government that is much more unabashedly libertarian, right? The problem in India is that so far, even those who are essentially libertarian in their heads and hearts, they do it either by stealth or by using moreover, that we will do all this for the poor, moreover we'll do this for reform, or we'll do this all this reform, moreover, or besides this, don't forget that we are doing all this for the poor. There is no contradiction between the needs and priorities of the poor and between the needs and priorities of reform and growth. So if the budget is a clear enough indication that this government is making a break from that past, which actually will just be an acknowledgement of the quality of the verdict that has brought them into power, then that's a very big thing. You know, otherwise all reform in India is done homeopathically only because nobody wants to stand up and say this is a good thing for the poor.
No, but let's take, for example, fuel subsidy. I want to go across to Sailesh Haribhakt. The moment, whether it is on LPG, whether it is on kerosene, you do the opposite of what Rahul Gandhi tried to do. You reduce the number of cylinders a family gets from 12 to 7, which is the average number of cylinders a household actually consumes in a year. There'll be a huge outrage. There'll be a lot of anger. Given the political compulsions, can Mr. Jaitley, given the fact that it's just the first year of a very convincing mandate, disregard political compulsions and bash along regardless?
I think very much he can do that. I think we will see a clear turn to the right, a turn to market-based pricing, which I think is the only way forward. If we want to control inflation, if we want to do things for the benefit of the whole economy, then we will have to turn right, we'll have to turn to the youth, we'll have to turn to making sure that the incentives are there for investment, for saving, for export. And if you want to do all of this, three key issues are going to come to the surface. One, the issue of making sure that the subsidies are targeted, and targeted in a way that will save simply by the efficiency of delivery. Two, a rational and clean, clear, simplified tax system which will remove all the possibilities of the disputes and therefore realize a lot of the taxes which are stuck in disputes. And three, a clear move to make sure that market-driven prices will prevail.
Now, everyone's almost assuming, Dr. Virmani, that there is no politics in any of this. That this is an economist standing up. It's almost as if the chief economic advisor's vision is going to hold forth. There is no CA at this time, but it's almost as if everybody's assuming that an economist's vision will hold forth. Is it as simple? Will it be as simple? Can it be that simple?
Frankly, I've been involved in reform for 15 years, and let me tell you two or three lessons which I've learned. One is that timing and phasing is always a political decision. So the first thing is to understand what you've got to do and then figure out what is the politically best way to do it. That's one lesson. Second lesson that I've learned is that always there is huge resistance, there's huge talk against any reform. But I have seen for 90% of the reforms that took place, even the leftists who oppose, and I can name big names, which obviously I won't, they are my friends, some of them, always come around. They always say, this much you've done is fine, the next step is what we oppose. So sometimes you just got to take the bull by the horns.
But
and
is
do
there
it.
a fear, Shekhar, that the government then gets unpopular? We've already seen the Congress taking to the streets, burning effigies of Modi and Jaitley, saying, this is not the Achhe Din that you promised, you're making things tougher for us.
What Shekhar said is absolutely right. There has to be a change of paradigm. That means a clear signal that we think this mixed economy populism is played out. We are going to a job-oriented market economy. This is the time they can do it. They have no credible political opposition. They're not going to lose any election for the next 12 months. So they can do what they like. They can put cap on subsidies. Incidentally, the survey says very clearly, shift from price subsidies to income support. Let's see what he does on that. Instead of giving price subsidies, give income support.
Look, you have to change the nature of the debate.
Absolutely.
A fuel price going up a little bit more or a fuel subsidy coming down a little bit more is no Achhe Din going away. Look at economic surveys. There is stunning data there. Ashok and Arvind Virmani, they know all this stuff because they've been tracking it. An average urban household in India today spends more money on entertainment every month than on food grain, than on fuel and light, that is fuel and power. Right? In fact, the way the trend line is growing, in 3 years from now, an average urban household will spend more money on entertainment than on food grain and pulses put together. Again, the same household today spends more money on vegetables than food grain or pulses. This is a completely changing India. People can take up placards and say, Bure din aa gaye, achhe din aa gaye. Look, this whole gas cylinder debate is the most obscene debate in India's political economy. Who gets a gas cylinder? Somebody who can have a gas stove. Who can have a gas stove? Somebody who can have a kitchen she can lock. Who has an address? Yes. Who can have a kitchen she can lock? Somebody who has a house, right? She's not a poor person. Everybody is poor because the moment somebody falls sick in our families, we all become poor because it costs so much. So those are issues of governance. If we have to send a child to a private college, we become poor because we have to beg, steal, borrow, whatever. But those are issues that you have to answer through better governance, not by giving me 3 more gas cylinders. It's ridiculous. You see a city like Delhi, where more and more colonies are now being piped, right? My home is piped. Has anybody whose home has been piped ever checked how much she's paying for that gas? Nobody. Okay. If multiplex prices go up by 15 rupees every 3 months, nobody even notices that. Let me complete this. Look at Bombay today. Look at the noise that's being made over metro fares. the same people who are complaining about paying 5 rupees more for a wonderful metro will happily pay 50 rupees for parking their car in a shopping mall. So it's for the political leadership of the country to change this discourse, and some people will say Bure din aa gaye, and some TV channels will say Bure din aa gaye, but frankly, even the use by date on that free content, I hope, will now be over.
That's interesting, because you're talking about a paradigm change. I want to go across just very briefly to Alok Churiwala. He's standing in the rain in Mumbai. Mr. Churiwala is a leading market expert. Mr. Churiwala, the market's reacting very cautiously. In fact, down 0.86%, that's the Sensex. Now, why is it that the markets are not surging as they have been for the past several weeks? Why are they looking at this budget with so much caution, sir?
Very clearly, after the rail budget set the tone for moderation, I think the marketmen are expecting moderate voices to come through in this budget. No dose of populism, no big ticket announcements. While what will be perhaps announced will be good for the economy in the long run, there won't be easy money in the short term. Maybe markets could face a little difficulty, or let's say the country as a whole might have to go through some tough soul searching, as it may. So, which is why I think the markets are being very cautious, but yet at the risk of caution, I think there is optimism that is the underlying tone.
So you're saying there's underlying optimism, but at this moment they're being cautious. They're not expecting any big ticket announcements which would fundamentally change sentiment.